Imperialis here, and I wanted to take you along on another fleet battle here. This one popped up, it seemed interesting. This is actually an attempt to re-record something similar to what I did yesterday, which was a fleet battle down here, but I am bad at YouTubing, as I have said on many occasions, and did something to screw up my recording. So you got a lovely view of the star map as I was fighting. And you could hear everything in the background and all the pew-pews and everything like that, but couldn't actually see what was happening, which is really too bad because it was actually an amazing battle. But here's another one that is fairly similar. The other battle I fought had 2 onslaughts. This only has 1, but this one also has a vendetta and a legion. And then as well a number of cruisers, which any one of these would be a pretty darn nice pickup. I'm not terribly fussed about the Dominator. I like having them around. They're tough ships. I would really like to snag an Eagle. That would be nice. That would be an amazing pickup. I would be very happy to get an Eagle. And I'd be really happy to get any one of these 3 ships. The Onslaught, the Vendetta, or the Legion. The Griffin would be nice as well, as would a Harrier, though I'm not... they're okay. Not my favorite ships in the world. They're decent for long-range support. So let's take a quick look at what I am bringing. This is my fleet. This is going to be my first time flying the Intergalactic Superstar, a battle cruiser. This is the vanilla version, and I know I've showed you the other one before, my Cabal variant, and these 2 turrets here are what make all the difference in the world between the 2, because on the standard Odyssey they are missile mounts. On the Cabal variant they are missiles or ballistics, which meant I was able to put Needlers on, which are devastating anti-shield weapons. Then I could follow up with my broadside here. So for the broadside on this, I've got a plasma cannon and a high intensity laser. And then I've got some phase cannons and some IR pulse lasers for more close range work. On this side, I've just got a little bit of PD, not very much. I'm going to be relying a fair bit on PD frigates to help me out there, and then a couple of burst PDs on the back just to help protect my engines. Because this does not have a 360-degree shield, it's got a Omni shield. In my fighter bays, I have a longbow, again just to help with some anti-shield work, and a dagger torpedo bomber, because we're going up against a low-tech fleet, and low-tech fleets have lots of armor, and Atropos class torpedoes are good at dealing with armor. Over here I've got a Hurricane Merv, which again is mostly just a finisher weapon. If I manage to get somebody on the back foot or get in the rear of an onslaught or something like that, this will do some heavy lifting for me. Other interesting additions to the fleet, I've got the Sadukar, an Arda class assault battle cruiser. I have this kitted out mostly for long range support. It's got a hypervelocity driver, this Telem autocannon, whatever the heck it does. It's a decently long-ranged kinetic cannon, machete multi-role laser, and an ion beam for further support, as well as a tactical laser. The other interesting ship that I'm trying out is this guy, Bad Touch, an Arkney class custom destroyer. This is again a mod ship, but the cool thing about it is okay, well, so let's talk about the not cool things about it. It has a top speed of 63, it has terrible armor, it has terrible hull. You compare it to a Shrike. It has a little bit better armor than a Shrike, which is good, but worse hull, and certainly compare it to something like an Enforcer or even a Hammerhead. It's not a strong ship, especially given how slow it is. But what it does have is these high-resolution sensors that advanced targeting core, sorry, that increases the range of ballistic and energy weapons by 100%. So that means my lightning guns here have a range of 2,000 units, as do the tactical lasers, but I don't care so much about them. But these lightning guns, there are 2 of them. They do EMP damage, they're going to force these low-tech ships that I'm up against to keep their shields up, and generally just troll the snot out of them from the other side of the map. This is an example of a ship that you could comfortably put a, timid captain in and not worry about it, because timid captains like to stay at long range. You cannot get any longer range than 2,000 units at all. Other than that, just rounding out the fleet, I've got a Dominator and basically a baby Dominator for some line holding capabilities. I've got a couple of Shrikes to do some DPS. I've got him, he's a safety override hammerhead. I'll probably bring him early on to help clear up some trash and then retreat him out. A couple of Enforcers, again just to cover the field a little bit. Some PD frigates. This is a Boar, which is kitted out for PD. A couple of Omens and some of my favoritist ships, the Centurions. Some little frigates. My Wolf Pack, which is sadly depleted at the moment. And yeah, that is it. So I'm going to put a quick cut in here as I fly from the system that will soon be my colony to Beta Ferror, the Yellow Star, because I believe I already scouted this and I know that he's in there. Rocky Ice World, I believe it is in Beta Ferror. Just check real quick. Yes, Rocky Ice World, laying course. Okay, so let's leave. And yeah, that's another mod thing. I built an outpost in this system to, I don't know, sort of lift my leg on it, I guess. Anyhow, I'm going to put a cut in here, and I will see you once we arrive. Okay, and we're back. Off to go kill this pirate. And I think what I'm going to do is, when I get into the fight itself, after I deploy and stuff like that, I'm actually going to mute my mic. It is just a lot easier to talk or easier to fly without talking, generally speaking. I'm not good enough to do both at once. It's especially in a fairly intense fight like this. So, I mean, you can see I'm mostly cruisers. I've got 4 cruisers and a battle cruiser. We're up against 2 battleships, the Legion Assault Battle Carrier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cruisers, pack of destroyers, pretty decent pack of destroyers too. I mean, those Shrikes are no joke, or Sunders rather are no joke. They can put out a lot of damage. Neither are the Hammerheads. Very few D-mods. This is going to be a tough fight, so I'm going to have to concentrate on it. And as such, after I do my deployment and sort of my initial setup, I'm probably going to mute myself, if that is okay with everybody. And then I'll just, what I'm going to do is put everything in post. I'll do my commentary after the fact, when I can concentrate on what exactly I've been doing and point out all the mistakes that I made. So I'm going to deploy heavily for this. And I am going to... do you want to bring that along? Bring some of the frigate core. Actually, you know what? I might leave the brawlers in reserve because they have safety overrides. They're not ideal safety override ships, but they do work. Just bring these guys out to grab a couple of control points and stuff like that. And of course, I'm going to want my lovely point defense fleet. Yeah, I'll bring it all. No, I won't bring it all. Okay, so my strategy here with Intergalactic Superstar is I'm going to be trying to use it to disrupt their lines. I'm going to be trying to use it fairly aggressively, get around a flank or something like that, and try and get in behind. This ship does not do terribly well against shields, so I'm going to need support for that. It's part of the reason why I'm bringing a reasonable fighter core. I mean, I've got 2 fighters on there, 2 fighters there, 2 fighters there, so a fairly decent little fighter core. The red dwarf is going to be escorting me, I believe, unless our speeds are way out of whack. Doesn't look like they are. He's a PD destroyer. And yeah, so anyhow, I'm going to mute myself here, and I will see you in post. Okay, so here we go. Right now I'm just setting up my point defense, and so the goal here is to get my some PD on myself, as well as my Dominator and my Baby Dominator, because their shields aren't great. I sort of faff about a little bit. I debate putting the PD on my Pirate Falcon and my that carrier cruiser thing that yeah, I make a bit of a mess of the PD at first here, and then cancel a bunch of it and reassign ships and stuff like that. Just trying to make sure that I'm escorting my ships that have weak PD. So, yeah. Just setting up my initial objectives, defend to the center, send capture orders, that sort of stuff. Again, this is why you bring frigates well throughout the game, at least in my opinion. Those capture points make a big difference. Range wins battles. If you are able to start getting your enemies flux up ahead of time as they are still on the approach and can't shoot at you yet, it's free damage, basically. You don't even have to put your shields up. Most ships are going to be reasonably flux neutral if they don't have their shields up when they're firing, so it's a pretty decent idea to get as much range as you can. It also makes ECM very, very valuable. That's one of the reasons why I brought the Omens along, is because I wanted to make sure that I had a higher ECM rating than my enemy, and at some point I'll probably do a little bit of a deeper dive into what ECM does and how some of those more arcane mechanics of the game work. I was just chatting on Discord with a fellow about how armor works and stuff like that, and that is truly dark sorcery. I barely understand it, other than the fact that armor better than hull as a general rule. So I saw somebody break down the math once, and it basically seems to boil down to that armor is multiplicative, whereas hull is additive, because the armor applies to a whole bunch of different squares around your ship, whereas the hull is the hull itself. Anyhow, like I said, it's hard to explain, but maybe I'll take a crack at it at some point. So this is the Vigilance class battleship off in the upper right there. It's a nasty piece of work. It is a mod ship, but it is very, very potent. I don't know, the way I think of it is, if the Onslaught is the Bismarck, a Vigilance is the Prince Eugen. It's a bit faster, it's not quite as heavily armed, it's not a battle cruiser like the Odyssey, it is a proper battleship, like it's a proper capital ship, as you can see by how much damage it just did to my shields there. But it isn't quite the Onslaught. It doesn't have the thermal pulse cannons, but it's still a real nasty piece of work. So all I'm doing here now is throwing some engage orders on their capital ships, and then fighter strike on the Legion. I do make a significant mistake. I don't order my Pirate Falcon, who is down at the south of the screen, to move and engage. I had him kind of waiting there with the intention of engaging the capital ships, but I just plain forgot, and that was a big mistake, because He's a lot of very concentrated firepower that does a very good job of killing capital ships. So, big oops on my part. Basically, at this point, my plan is I'm going to start trying to swing around to the right so that I can try and circle around these ships with my broadside, which is all on the port, I think? I don't know. I live in the middle of Canada. I'm about as far away from an ocean as possible. I think port is left, but somebody who knows more about ships could tell me otherwise. I get flanked by a hammerhead here, which is problematic. It's not a terribly well equipped hammerhead though, but it's still enough that I feel the need to turn around and deal with it. Hammerheads can have the potential to put out a lot of damage very quickly, so I just eliminate that threat and sort of abandon my poor little escort destroyer to face a frontal assault from that dude. So now I'm moving in to try and relieve him at this point. Managed to get his flux run up, but you can see my big problem with this build here is I'm really struggling with punching through shields. I just don't have the damage capacity. So at this point I just start rejiggering some of my orders, trying to get some more aggression on the capital ships. I'm starting to feel like I'm a little bit in over my head, and kind of retreat back. I'm still interested in pursuing that battleship there, but then I see my baby dominators getting just smashed by this onslaught, so I move in to try and help him out. And this is where I really start to run into some trouble. You can see how quickly he runs up my flux. And then off on the left here, I've got a big strike of Piranha bombers coming in. And I just eat it on the shields. It overloads me right in front of an onslaught, which is just not what you want to deal with. So I back off, vent my flux, or deal with the overload, and charge back in because I'm worried that they're just going to start steamrolling up my line, and I start hunting for some reinforcements. I faff about a little bit here trying to figure out what I want to take, and end up deciding, I believe, on bringing in my Gemini as well to get some more fighters on the field, because fighters can be quite efficient at taking out big heavy ships. Just check their orders, see what they're going to be going off to go and do, and sort of leave it at that. So CR alarms are starting to go off, which is certainly problematic, and normally I try to pull ships out once their CR starts running into problems, but I just can't afford to at this point. I also screw up my controls. I end up trying to switch weapons. That's another issue I'm having with this ship in general, is I've got my weapon groups spread out too much. You can probably see I've got my broadside on one weapon group, the Sabos on another, and my Hurricane Merv launcher on a third, and it's just too much. I've got another bomber strike coming in here with my flux super high. It's not going well for a whole variety of reasons. Mostly just outmatched by the size of these ships. So at this point I'm trying to withdraw because my flux is really high again. I got my shield down, and then I take a big bomber hit on the engines and another hit on the frontal armor. My armor's been punched right through. You can see my hull's taken a big hit. I vent, and then I advance in, and I take another whack of missile hits on my broadside side, the side that needs to be facing the enemy. So I'm in serious trouble at this point with this ship. And at this point I'm thinking I can't take it off the field. I need to keep the pressure up because the rest of my fleet can't handle these things. But I'm kind of assuming that at some point over the course of this fight I'm probably going to lose the Odyssey. And that's just how the game works sometimes. Those are the luck of the draw. And normally the Odyssey's a very good matchup against these sorts of ships. The challenge is, though, I just don't have the fleet to face tank them while I get around to the flanks. The Odyssey does very well in maneuver warfare. It's a very agile ship, especially for a capital ship. And if I can get behind any of those, between the high intensity laser and the plasma cannon, I will wreck face. It would just end in a river of tears for them. So at this point, basically what I decide to do, first I remember I have a Pirate Falcon, which, there we go, finally, that helps. And I'm just hunting for what I can do with my ships to salvage this situation, and I decide what I need to do is go and start, I believe at this point I decide what I need to do is go and start trying to clean up some of their other stuff, use the Odyssey to do that while I can, while at the same time trying to shield tank as much as I can and get some of the pressure off of my ships that are in better shape but still quite vulnerable. So just a little bit of dancing back and forth here, harassing the Legion, trying to get some pressure on it. And you can see my frigates and stuff like that are starting to really run into combat readiness issues. And yeah, I'm going for some of their smaller ships now. I'm just going to try and harass the Onslaught a little bit, get a little bit of flux up, and then leave it in the hands of my fleet while I go and try and take out these Griffins and stuff like that. Now, at this point, Griffins are actually a threat to me. Like, something as simple as a Salamander could end me. So I do need to try and stick with my fleet and try to clear these guys up as best I can. Fortunately, I should be able to punch through their shields significantly more easily than I can with the Onslaught and stuff like that. And of course, once their shields are done, Griffins are fairly fragile ships. And see here how I'm able to use the burn drive to flank around. And this is exactly what you want to do against a conquest. This is how an Odyssey kills a conquest. So if I had been able to do this earlier in the battle, it would have gone much better. And at this point, I'm just ignoring the CR warnings. And we're here till we die. At this point, I've invested enough in this fight that we will win this. It's just a question of how many losses I take. And he's still got reinforcements coming in. So I might still pull some guys out, but I honestly can't remember. Bullying, this is a light cruiser of some sort, and I'm just dumping ordnance into it. I want to kill it as fast as possible to clear the field so that when this Odyssey dies, oh yeah, I do pull some of my ships off the field. Mostly just hunting for like my safety override hammerhead and the ones that are in danger of critical malfunctions and stuff like that, and just retreating them out just so I don't start having them blow up on me if I can avoid it. No point in taking more losses than strictly necessary. But you can see even my carrier is in on the action and pressuring, which is good. I need that at this point in the fight. So, continuing to pressure this cruiser and trying to get him off the board, which will hopefully open up this flank, allowing the rest of my fleet to start wrapping around and get into the flanks of their capital ships. And you can see even with this, though, I'm struggling with those shields. Even with the longbow fighter wing. Like, I've got sending longbows out to hit these things. And another cruiser comes in, just about kills me because he starts shooting at me with lasers almost immediately. Trying to retreat back into some safety because again my flux is very high. And they've got another cruiser coming in. My poor Odyssey is just having a double plus unfun, no good, very bad day that's about to get worse as a Piranha bomber strike comes around the side and takes me out. So I sit here somewhat discombobulated for a moment and play around with orders on the pause screen while I collect my thoughts. and try to decide what I'm going to fly next. I debate the Dominator. I poke around for any reinforcements that I might have that I'd care to fly, and eventually end up deciding on the Pirate Falcon, because I figure I'd probably be able to use those torpedoes more strategically than the AI would, and it just makes more sense for me to be piloting that and hitting them for maximum damage whenever the opportunity presents itself, rather than letting the AI pilot kind of pick his own targets and stuff like that, because I want him to kill those capital ships and kill them quickly. My poor little boar destroyer here is getting bullied by a cruiser now, so I go in to help out. I figure he did a darn good job helping me, and he deserves a shot. Just working away at these cruisers. I do still need to bust through here, and eventually I decide, you know what, I'm wasting time, I'm wasting CR, my fleet is not doing well, though they did just take out the onslaught there, which is nice, and the other battleship retreated, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go kill this Legion. I'll leave my fleet to clean up the rest of them, or I'll turn around and deal with them. At this point, this Legion just needs to die, so I start flinging Reaper torpedoes at it. And I fire Sabos and Reapers and just unload all of the things to kill it as quickly as possible. Get him overloaded, or get a bunch of his weapons shut down. My flux is super high, but I no longer care. Fortunately, because I don't have any weapons that generate flux on this apart from 2 tactical lasers, it's actually pretty effective at flying around with its shields down and still being reasonably good at avoiding serious damage. It also helps that it's a very fast and agile ship, and there we go. Legion goes down. Now it's just now we're in cleanup mode. 2 capital ships, 3rd one escaped, and yeah. You can see here, though, that I'm frazzled and not flying terribly well as I miss with Reapers on an overloaded ship and generally just make a fool of myself. But we've won the video game, and I think I take out this Dominator just as an act of petty vengeance, because I can. There's not much he can do anymore. He's just having a bad day. Avenge the Odyssey. That's it. That's the last of them. Back to live commentary as we deal with the aftermath of this. Oh boy, that was intense. So, yes, I blew up my battlecruiser, Intergalactic Superstar. I was actually kind of disappointed with how poorly that performed. It really struggled with shields and flux management. I'm going to have to try a different build on it. That build was a bit of an experiment. We did, however, manage to bag ourselves an Onslaught, an Eagle, and a Legion, as well as a Dominator and 2 Griffins. So let's see what we can get in terms of salvage. I am not chasing after these guys. My fleet is trashed right now. Like, everything is dead. And he still has a pretty respectable cruiser. This guy, yeah, we're just going to let them go. And, hey, we lost almost 500 crew, but we managed to get 158 back. So let's see what we can get. Oh, we're going to get that back. Ooh, and no demods. That's nice. We're going to get... Ooh, that's nice. A compromised hull isn't ideal, but, you know, I will take it. I love the Eagle. It is a wonderful, wonderful cruiser. Degraded engines, unreliable subsystems, compromised hull. It's not ideal, but I'll pick it up anyhow. I don't know what the heck will bring the phase frigate back. Do I care about you? Structural damage? You're pretty fragile anyhow. They're nice ships to have. And a brawler. Can never have too many brawlers. don't care much about increased maintenance. I'm going to be mothballing all these anyhow, because I don't have 3,000 crew. Most of them are going to go into storage. I'll probably bring the Eagle out at some point fairly soon. But yes, we are going to pick through the wreckage, and we're going to see if we got anything nice. A Cyclone Reaper launcher. That is a terrifying weapon. 20 Reaper torpedoes firing in bursts of 2. I don't want to face that. Mark 9 autocannon, which is always nice. A Gauss cannon, which is a very nice pickup. And then just some other assorted trash. We'll take all that, confirm and continue, go right into our fleet, and start mothballing. I'm going to go so far as to mothball all of the things, because my fleet's been kind of trashed. So that was a close fight. That was an intense fight. I played quite aggressively with Intergalactic Superstar here. It was, like I said, I'm not impressed with how that loadout worked. I couldn't deal with shields, and some of that is because I wasn't using my sabos enough and my other missiles enough. And quite often I like putting swarmers on here instead, the large mount, because I can just leave that on auto fire and kind of forget about it, and it does its thing. And I'm going to have to figure out something else to do with those medium missile mounts. Possibly put those on auto fire or something. I don't know. I got to play with it some more. Anyhow, that is the fight. Hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next time.